Hello and welcome to what might be the final stretch of my Cthulhu Wars coverage. I'm going to start looking at the smaller box expansions. Might have to split this into a couple of videos just to cover everything, so I'm definitely going to talk about the High Priests and the Dreamlands stuff. We'll see how that does time-wise, and we might talk about some other bits in another video if this is going on a bit too long. So anyway, let's start off with the High Priests. Okay, so the High Priests, as you can see, there are 7 colours, so yellow sign, mglw'nafh, Cthulhu, Cthulhu R'lyeh, fhtagn, and wgah'nagl, I want to say. Yeah, so you've got one for each of the main factions. They are all the same sculpt, so I'm not going to bother showing you each colour. Let's have a look. So they've got a big base. They're then sort of there praising or kind of greeting a great old one, I guess. It's a bit of an odd pose. Some people think it's a bit of a weird pose. It's not too bad. It's not one of the stronger sculpts in the Cthulhu Wars line, but it's not too bad. Now, each priest basically gets exactly the same power, unless you use the optional PDF that I showed you in one of the other videos. It's double-sided, so this side here, this side here tells you, costs 3, has no combat, it has unspeakable oath, it has a few notes, and then you've got some tips and tricks. Okay, so the priest's power is at the end of any player's action, you sacrifice your high priest and get 2 power, and that can be done also during the gather power and doom phases, so great way of suddenly getting some powers back. Effectively, he is a new type of cultist recruited as an acolyte, and it generates you 1 power during the gather power phase. Can control a gate, can be captured, and you only have 1 high priest per faction. And they don't need a gate to be summoned because they are recruited, and they will benefit from any spell or ability that references cultists. That's a pretty cool ability. Now, some of the tips and tricks are sacrifice during the gather power phase to ensure your first player, so tactical move, particularly useful for fhtagn, I guess. Recruit your high priest in the first action phase, sacrifice him, awaken your old god, so that's quite a cool little trick. If your high priest is alone on a gate and is likely to be threatened, then sacrifice him. Sacrifice him when other players are out of power to resurrect yourself, so people run out of power, get yourself back in the game. And of course, if you really, really urgently need a ritual of annihilation, sacrifice him. So they're all pretty good tips and tricks. And as I say, that's just the opposite side of your regular card. And that's pretty much all there is to say about the High Priest. It's a nice little way of just mixing up the game slightly. And it's good to see that you've got all 7 in one box. Nice and simple little addition to the game. Now this is the kind of neutral monster Dreamland surface pack. You have 4 Moonbeast, 2 Nori, and 3 Nori and 2 Shantak. And each of them has their own little powers. The sculpts are pretty cool. I like the Moonbeast, they look great. Kind of crocodile, frog, tentacle beast, a very weird thing. Let's go with the Nori next. Really cool, sort of, if you're a D&D player, a young T, kind of lizard man-y type guy. So double-handed weapon, single-handed weapon, really, really cool figure. I love that, and that's definitely one to paint up at some stage. I keep saying that about all my board games. I will actually have to start painting some figures at some stage. Least impressive to me is the Shantak. However, it's still a really good figure. It's got kind of weird stomach, toothy sort of maw, the kind of long neck. It's sort of a dragony sort of figure, so it's probably disappointing to me because it's not quite creepy enough for Cthulhu, but I think that's pretty close to the the sort of lore. So yeah, still a very impressive figure. So, you know, when I'm saying that's the weakest of the figures, and yet it's still a really good figure, you know that these are really, really high quality minis, and there's very few minis I absolutely think, oh, these are terrible. The High Priests are probably my least favourite of all the miniatures, and even they're pretty good, to be honest. Anyway, let's have a look at the powers that these little fiends give us. Okay, well, let's start off with the Moon Beast. Pay 2 Doom to obtain the loyalty of this card. Place a Moon Beast on an enemy faction's spellbook, so get it straight away. It will then cost you 2 to buy more Moon Beasts. They cost 0, and they have a blasphemous obedience. Blasphemous Obscience. When a Moon Beast is summoned, place it on a spellbook of an enemy's faction card. Whilst the Moon Beast is there, the player cannot use that spellbook. The next Doom phase, place all Moon Beasts on enemy spellbooks in any areas with your controlled gates. So it's a really good way of shutting down people who are annoying you. They can be returned to the map if the victim spends 1 Doom point. Okay, so you're either stopping them using their spellbooks or draining them of Doom. So that's an annoying little, what's it, that? Okay, let's move on to the Nori, which we've got 3 of, and you'll tell that by the little number there. So pay 2 to acquire this card, placing 1 Nori in your on a controlled gate, costs you 3 to buy more. They've got pretty good combat of 2, and they've got a Grotto's ability, which is in the Doom phase. If you have 2 Nori in play, you earn 1 extra Doom point. If you have 3 Nori in play, 2 extra Doom point. Well, that seems like a really good combat unit that gives you extra Doom as well. So I like them. They're you know, the mini's great and the ability's great. I can see me recruiting those, particularly if I'm a beat stick sort of great old one. The Shantak, we've only got 2 of them. Pay 2, get the card, place a Shantak on a controlled gate, costs you 2 to summon more. They've got a combat of 2, and they've got an ongoing ability that when moving, it can reach any area of the map, and it can carry 1 cultist for free. So it's a good way of spend 1 power to move, teleport it anywhere on the map, and drag a cultist with you for free. So that's pretty cool, and, you know, reasonable combat ability as well. So yeah, all 3 of these have their own uses and are very, very good. How do you get them? Well, as it says here, you may purchase the ability to summon a neutral monster during the Doom phase. You may only earn 1 neutral monster type per Doom phase. There is no limit to how many neutral monster loyalty cards you can obtain. When it's your turn to perform a Ritual of Annihilation, lower your Doom by 2 points. You may still perform a ritual if you wish. When you spend the Doom points, choose a neutral monster loyalty card and place it in by your faction card, adding the figures to your pool. So that's pretty cool. So when you would normally do a Ritual of Annihilation, pay 2, get hold of one of these cards, and if you want to, you can also do the ritual as well. And basically, once you recruit one of these, no one else can get it. There's no way of stealing it from you. So they're pretty powerful, and it's going to grow your faction. So if you're weak on units, good way to grow your army. If you're strong on units and you want to be even more of a beat stick with more of a target on your back, well, recruit them. So that's a pretty cool little faction. Let's have a look at the other half of this, which is the Underground Monsters. Right, the Underworld Monster Pack for the Dreamlands is a bit weird the way they've packaged it. It's all nice and neatly packaged in this container, but then these extra Ghasts were just sort of like chucked in the legs of the Leng spider. So yeah, that's a little bit odd. So we got the Ghast, which is a great little figure. He's got this kind of weird maw rib cage, strange head, sort of demonic goatee legs, like a weird twisted satyr. So very, very bizarre figure. Do like that. This arm looks like it could do with a reseating, so might have to get that looked at, because that's not quite clicked in place. But yeah, pretty impressed with that. The Gug, you've got 2 of these. That's a pretty impressive beast, with a very much, if you've ever seen the film The Thing, visions of picking people up and stuffing them in your maw. Yeah, quite unpleasant. And then the deliciously gribbly Leng spider. Really, really nice. That is just, yeah, that's going to freak out one of my players who's not keen on spiders, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, they are great, apart from this figure that's not quite put together, so I'm going to have to maybe a little bit of hot water, reseat that arm, and then a bit of cold water to make it all settle back down again. But yeah, everything else looks pretty good. Very impressed with this set. So what do the abilities do? Let's have a quick look at those. Okay, so the Ghasts, just like any old monster, pay 2, acquire 4 Ghasts, and apparently they all deploy instantly. They cost 2 to re-recruit, 0 combat. When you spend 2 power to do Hordlin, summon Ghasts, all Ghasts in your pool are immediately placed on the map at any gates you control. So they don't do much apart from get in the way, act as meat shields, but they're very cheap to buy and deploy, so that's a nice little ability. The Gugs, a little bit more combat focused. When you buy, you get 1 at a controlled gate. They cost 1, they have a combat of 3. They are clumsy, however, so a Gug cannot capture a cultist. This ability is not optional. Okay, so that's a little bit of a shame, but they can eat them. A Leng Spider, you get 1. They cost 2, they have battle of 1, and they have bloodthirst, so after a battle, if a Leng Spider is involved in a battle, you may exchange 2 pain results for a kill before results are assigned. You may do this once per Leng Spider in the battle. Each use of this ability can either apply to your own result or your opponent, so that's pretty sweet. If you don't want to retreat, you could maybe let your Ghast die, for example, or maybe if you really, really want to get that kill, then convert your pains to kills. So yeah, that's pretty sweet ability, that. So nice, interesting mix between the 2 Dreamland packs. Okay, well, I think that will do for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed a look at the High Priests, who are great for dropping into any battle, any map. The Dreamland packs, which obviously you don't have to be playing on the Dreamland maps to play with them, but it's going to mix things up. So you've got the surface monsters and the underworld monsters, which obviously are going to give you different tactical options. So you've got the annoying mutant beasts, the attacky snake men, the transport units, the kill things dead, the annoying clog things up Ghasts, and of course the Gugs for munching on things. So yeah, nice little mix of extra units and another great way of mixing up your game. Obviously what you've got to be careful of with these extra packs is mixing in too many of them and diluting the game and taking away some of the fun, but you know, a little sprinkle here and there of some extra units, extra old ones, extra abilities, etc. is going to really spice up the game, particularly if you're starting to get tired of the same strategy. Like, you know, if you always play with Cthulhu, well, you know, maybe have a different old one, maybe recruit a High Priest just to change things up a bit, stop the game getting too stale for you. Anyway, that's 3 packs down. We've still got about 7 left to go. And then that would be pretty much it for unboxing everything from Onslaught 2. And I can actually get to playing the game and trying to do a review. And of course, I'm really keen to get to grips with the Omega rulebook, which basically combines all the rules into one rulebook. And yeah, means you don't have to carry around lots of little pamphlets. Anyway, till the next video, take care.